Hello, hello. Welcome to your weekly Latina mental health series. You are here with your one and only Norma Garcia. I've been hosting these weekly series, all mental health related. We are about, I think, in our sixth or seventh session already. Always so excited to be here to continue sharing this space with you. Today will be a little bit different because I won't be live. I'm actually pre-recording this session for you. I wanted to make sure that I, come on here and continue with my presentations. I'm actually out on vacation, so I do apologize that I won't physically be here, but it was important for me to still do this live for you and provide you all this invaluable information that I have been since we started. And so, whenever you watch this recording, please, engage in the chat. Still, let us know where you're tuning in from. What is it that you're hoping to get out of today's webinar? And that way, too, you're also having an opportunity to interact with other Latinas that are in the room with us as well. And so these weekly series they're about 30 minutes long. I'll begin with a presentation and talking about whatever mental health topic it is that week. And then I will leave some room for some Q&A. For today's Q&A, obviously I won't be here live to engage, but if you do have any questions about anything that I covered, please put it in the chat. And then I will make sure to get back to answering those questions or giving you whatever information it is that you needed to know. And so today's presentation is going to be on mind-body connection and wellness for Latinas. And so if any of you were here last week, we talked about everything mindfulness, how to be present, how to be in the moment, how can we fully integrate ourselves in experiences where we are feeling, that we are present, that we're here. And so today's topic will also incorporate some of that mindfulness in terms of how it is that our mind and body are connected. And so before we even begin, I will go ahead and introduce myself like I always do. For those of you that have been tuning in and joining me in all these weeks, thank you again for being here. For those of you that are new, welcome to this inclusive, safe, and brave space that I'm able to offer you all. My name is Norma Garcia. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and inner healing coach for Latinas. For the past 10 years, I have devoted myself in working with various community mental health settings, clinics, schools, so on and so forth, working specifically with my Latino community and empowering us to heal in terms of our mental health, emotional health, physical health. My approach is incorporating, trauma-informed interventions as well as being culturally sensitive interventions. For me, I feel, culture is something that's really important, and it's essential in being able to build, relationships with my clients, especially if there's a sense of relatability. I'm very passionate in working with high-achieving first-gen professionals. My mission of mine is to advocate on mental health, to help continue breaking generational trauma and empowering and supporting you all in your own healing journey. And so please, make sure that you also share again where it is that you're coming from and if there's something you want to share in terms of who you are as well. All right, so let's begin. So like I mentioned, today we are going to talk about our mind and our body and the connection of that, right? So this may be something that perhaps you already have awareness of. This is just really giving the name to that process, right? That our mind and body is connected. And both of these things, right, as independent they're also can affect each other, and they're also really also codependent, in which our mind, right, we think about our mind, right, our mental state, which means our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our attitudes, our perspectives, right? All of that, it also affects our physical health, how we function biologically can affect us in a positive way or a negative way, right? Depending on what kind of mental state that we're in. Our physical body, right, is how it is that we take care of our body, like what we eat, how much we exercise, even like our posture, right? It's our physical body, right? And so our physical body as well can also affect our mind. So like see, both go hand in hand, right? One affects the other. And in order to really improve our overall physical and mental well being, we need to treat both of these and connect them, right? That we can't just treat one or the other, that we actually have to treat both because they both interrelatedly affect each other. So, something that I want to talk about and introduce is this method called body intelligence. Right? Again, our body, right? It's our physical composition, right? There's internal things, there's facial attributes, right? All those things are considered our body. And this body intelligence, what it means is this psychological method in which we need to understand and recognize the importance of our body sensations, right? That we need to pay attention to what is happening to our body. This could be our sensation, this could be like our triggers. How is our body reacting to certain situations? It's about being attuned to how our body is feeling. And understanding how our body feels, right, is also going to help strengthen that connection, with our mind. I think that our body is such instrumental in communicating to us whatever it is that we're going on, whether we're having a reaction, whether we're being triggered, whatever it is that is going on. And so this intelligence means that we are actually paying attention to it, attuning to it, and actually listening to it. So the first step in order to increase your body intelligence, obviously, is having awareness, right? Recognizing, internally what is happening, what are your cues, are your sensations that your body is telling you. And typically these sensations or cues or triggers, right, they're also connected to our emotions, right? Depending on how we are feeling, right, is going to also determine how it is that our body is reacting and communicating. So typically, the way that the cycle works is right is that there's a situation, and based on the situation, we have a way that we interpret or perceive that situation, and based the way that we perceive that situation, right, it's going to affect how we feel. And based on how we feel, then our body, is going to then communicate that through like a sensation or something that our body is experiencing. Okay. So with the body, our body is the subject of our stressors, right? Whether it's internal, something happening inside of us, right? Or something that's external, meaning things happen outside of us, that is going to trigger us. Our body keeps score, right? Our body keeps, right, our emotions, our thoughts, everything. So as I mentioned, our body is one of the best communicators, right, of what it is that is going on. It communicates us, whether we need to survive or we need to, cope with the stressor. Typically, when we are confronted with a difficult emotion, right, we have a choice of, okay, how are we going to cope with that emotion? How are we going to cope with that stressors, right? And there are adaptive and maladaptive ways of going about that. Adaptive means, right, it's a healthier, productive strategy or way of coping or dealing, versus maladaptive, right, that can be considered more as unhealthy or ineffective, right? And so sometimes we engage in these maladaptive ways of coping with our difficult emotions. And so what we want to do is we actually want to lean into these difficult emotions and understand, where are these emotions coming from, right? So we want to be able to address the source of the discomfort. Where is this difficult, uncomfortable emotion, coming from? So our body is kind of what tells us, right, that there is something going on. So our body, as you can tell, is so important in this, right? That we can't just separate our mind versus our body. They're both interconnected. And the reason that we want to talk about this connection because when we think about, well, what are adaptive ways to improve our well-being is how do we do specific like strategies, exercises, or techniques that are going to link both the mind and the body. All right. So when we think about mind body, techniques, exercises, and whatnot, what this means is that we are combining, right, our mind, right, mental focus. We're combining our breathing, right, being able to have some breath control. And we're also combining physical activity or body movement. So what this means is that there's a combination of all these three things, right? What we also know is that there's a lot of benefits from connecting our mind and our body in terms of how it affects our nervous system and our immune system. So when we're able to take care of both our mind and our body, it helps regulate our stress response system, right? Are we constantly like fleeing or fighting or freezing, right? The biological system that we have that comes on when there's a threat, when there's danger, when something is scary. It helps us find that balance and that equilibrium. It also increases um, our ability to sleep. It reduces stress, anxiety, decreases pain. It increases our ability also in terms of physically, right? Our immune system. It allows us to respond better to like any like medical treatments or when we're sick, right? Also being able to take care of our mind and our body can also be essential as well. All right. So what are these mind body exercises? So again, for those of you that were tuned into last week's presentation on mindfulness, some of these strategies are pretty much similar. However, now as we're doing these strategies, we're also being intentional of how it also is affecting our mind and our body and how we're making that link. Um, so, obviously with like breathing, being able to like slow down, breathe, take deep breaths. Last week I talked about the 4-7-8 technique, right? Where we take a breath for 4 seconds, we hold it for 7 seconds, and then we slowly exhale for 8 seconds. And this is a way again to slow our body, right? Think of like, let's say you're stressed out, you're in this very like threatening situation, right? You have all these like physical sensations, whether your heart is racing, you're tingly, you have, your chest is tight, you're sweating, maybe at the same time, right, you're having all these like negative thoughts or fears like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? um all this like negativity, right, which continues to add your level of like stress and anxiety. So when we just slow it down and take a deep breath, right, the breathing, right, it helps first slow down the body. And as you're slowing down the body, right, then we can also slow down what is happening in our mind. And the way that we do that, right, is that we also tell ourselves some calming statements, right? Like it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna get through this, right? This is just my anxiety, or this is just like my fears. So when I think of again, even with like anxiety, is that we want to calm our mind and our body, and obviously it makes sense as we're talking about it because they're both connected. Um, last week, oh, there was a typo here. I apologize. I also talked about, progressive muscle relaxation, in which in this exercise, we actually pay attention to our body. And so we go through our different muscle groups in which we squeeze that muscle, we tense them as tight as we can to the point just where you feel the tension, but not hurting yourself. And then you hold it and then you just release it, right? And so this exercise is for you to notice, right, the different areas of your body where you're tense, and then what it feels like to then be relaxed. And this you can typically I recommend it like doing it like bottom up, meaning like you start first like with your feet, you squeeze your toes, you move on to your calves and your thighs and your buttocks and then your belly, then your chest, so on and so forth, all the way till you reach your head. And all it is, like I said, is that you're literally just tensing the different muscle groups and then relaxing them. And then you'll also have awareness of where in your body you feel the most tense. what I talked about last time, mindfulness, right? Being present, being in the moment, really enjoying and experience that moment as is. As I said, like with mindfulness, it's pretty much is anything that you're doing, you could be present and mindful, right? It just depends on what exactly it is in that moment that you are paying attention to. So again, at any point, anything that I'm saying, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat, and I'll make sure to get back to answering your questions as soon as I can. And so we also have, guided imagery, right? Where, it would be nice that when we are in that moment of distress, if we can physically go to a location, right, and be there. If you can, great. I encourage it. There's going to be situations where we may not physically be able to be there, especially if it's like, let's say you're at work, right, or you're at home, or it's late at night. So with guided imagery, this allows us to use our imagination in which we think about what would it be like to be in that place, right? And the imagination, right? It could be an actual location that you have been to, or it can be a location that you just imagine, a location that you created in your mind, right? And all you do is that you imagine being in that place, right? Whether it's like a relaxing place, a healing place, right? This could be anywhere, whatever it is that brings you relaxation, whether it's like out in nature, the city, mountains, the beach, right? And imagining and putting yourself as if you were there, and using your senses, right, to imagine again, well, what would it be like if you were there, right? So using your senses, you know, what would you see, right? Who would be there with you? Any smells, any sounds, right? Anything that you can taste. And just by imagining and using your senses, that in itself can help already calm your body, right? And calm your mind. So that's a good one. I like to use guided imagery. With guided imagery, sometimes there are meditations that can guide you through an imagery. Those are also really helpful. If not, you can also guide yourself in your own imagery. Of course, meditation, that's a huge one in combination with, mindfulness. Last week we talked about that with mindfulness, right? There's different types of meditation, right? There's a meditation where you actually sit down and you focus on your breathing, or you have a specific intention. There's also the mindfulness of the meditation, right? Is when you're doing like actual activities, when you're integrating yourself into experiences, right? How are you being present in that? Also, other additional like physical exercises that are also helpful are, yoga, right? Pilates. Um, and so even, thinking about how those specific types of physical activities, right, help, again, calm yourself, calm your mind, calm your body. Additional activities that can also be helpful that require you to focus, right, can be, drawing, coloring, journaling, right, paying attention to your body sensation, paying attention to whatever thoughts are coming through, And if you remember with mindfulness, right, is that we're just acknowledging what is happening, right? We're not giving any judgment. We're not criticizing. All we're doing is we're observing, we're labeling, and then we're participating in whatever it is that we're doing in that moment. So there are many more exercises for the mind and body. These are just common ones that I definitely recommend to my clients. And these are, exercises that, some of them do require, right, like to set a specific time or, schedule it. And the other things, right, these can be things that you can just do in the moment, right? They could just take a few minutes, or if you want it to be like a lengthy thing, you can also do that as well. And so, now that we talked about the connection between our mind and our body, and again, there's so much more that like could be talked about, how our mind works, how our body works. Today's presentation was really just bringing awareness, right, to that connection, and the way that we take care of our mind and the way that we take care of our body, right, is going to really affect our overall mental, emotional, physical, well-being. Today, I focused a lot more on the body and really paying attention to the body. There's also, right, like our mind, right, like what happens, right, what comes through our mind, right, when we are in distress, like what are those specific thoughts, right, and how do we change the thoughts, or how to create new narratives, right? And so I want you to take a moment and think about, what is your number one exercise for the body and mind, right? What is your go-to exercise that you do that works for you, that's effective, that tends to calm both your mind and your body? Um, if you have more than one, fantastic. I encourage you to continue, doing those. If it is that there is a new exercise that you want to try, that you want to add to your routine, I invite you to also think of what that would be. What's something new that you're willing to incorporate that you feel, again, is going to help both your mind and your body. And so take a moment to think about what that would be. And I encourage you, to try it out. Try something out this week, whether it's something you've been thinking about, whether it's something you used to do in the past and perhaps haven't done it in a while and maybe want to re-engage in it. Or if it's something, just completely new that you're like, hey, I think I need to find other ways to take care of myself. So I invite you, to reflect and figure out what that is for yourself. And also, with these mind body exercises, and with just any like self-care, wellness, is that we want to do this on a daily basis. We want it to be part of our lifestyle, part of our day-to-day routine. We don't want to do these exercises or the coping skills only when we're stressed out, only when something happens, right? Because when we're already at that level of just intensity of distress or whatnot, these strategies can still work. They're just gonna it's just gonna be a little bit harder to like really like calm yourself. So the more that you're able to incorporate this and become like a daily practice, the more effective it's going to be, and the more that you're going to be able to regulate yourself and maintain a sense of homeostasis and stability versus having like constant up and down, up and down, up and down. Alrighty. So the last part of this is Q&A again. Please make sure, to write any questions, any thoughts, any feedback that you have regarding our mind and body connection and just our wellness overall. I have no doubt that all of you already are taking care of yourselves, right? And if this was just a reminder, right, that we need to continue taking care of ourselves and how the mind and body work is essential in our overall like mental health, emotional well-being. If that is all that you're able to take today, that makes me happy. So with that being said, I hope that you all have a wonderful evening, and that you start really putting these into practice. And even if you are putting into practice, just being more intentional and understanding the purpose of why we are to engage in these exercises, and understanding, right, the cost of what happens when we don't, right, connect our mind and our body. And also with thinking about the mind and body connection is when we think about also like our mental health, anxiety, depression, especially trauma, because trauma is one of the mental health conditions that really is within our body, and in order to heal from the trauma, we also have to heal our nervous system. We have to really work and do somatic nervous healing in order to be able to help us overall heal from our trauma. And also with the Q&A, if there's any additional topics that you want me to present on, this is a good opportunity to also put it in the chat. And lastly, for our next session, so the next one after this, July 6th, as of now, there's not going to be a webinar. However, the following week, which is July 13th, our usual 5 p.m., I am going to be talking about self-doubt and how do we transform that self-doubt into confidence. So this is going to be a really great topic, especially because we do find ourselves, especially as Latinas, right, depending on the spaces that we take up or the cycles that we're breaking, the relationships that we're in, right, is looking at where we're at in terms of our level of confidence and our belief system and how do we navigate that self-doubt. So alrighty, y'all. Well, again, thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. If you need any additional support, please, DM me with any questions that you may have. I'm here to support you. Like I mentioned, I am a mental health therapist, so I do provide therapy services to clients in California. If you're looking more for, focusing on your future, transforming the relationship with yourself, there are things that are currently going on in your life right now that you want to just have a transformation, you want to improve, you want to elevate. I also do offer inner healing coaching sessions to women of color. So if you have any questions regarding that, feel free also to DM me and I'll be more than happy to support you. Alrighty, well, I will see you guys next time. Take care.